Hi everybody, I'm Julie Key and I'm the bereavement support midwife in Women's and Newborn Unit in Bradford, and it's so great to see so many people here that have an interest in pregnancy loss and wanting to improve the care. I'm here today to talk basically about the Bradford bereavement midwifery service along with the rest of the speakers who are here. Just a bit about myself and why I'm here today. I've worked for the NHS for over 30 years. I've been a nurse, I've worked in A&E for 4 years, and I did my midwifery training. I've worked in all areas, and eventually this is where I am today. My interest in bereavement care came when my husband, who is now my ex, became a funeral director, and he was arranging a funeral for a lady's baby that I had delivered, and in conversations at home she wanted certain things doing, and between us both we improved the care for her. And at the time on TV, for the older people who might be here, there was a programme called William and Mary, which was about a midwife and a funeral director, and we became Bradford's William and Mary at the time. Fortunately I had a seconded role back in 2004 with the previous bereavement midwife, just doing 2 days a week, and that got my grounding for what I wanted to do. Unfortunately for me, the previous bereavement midwife moved on and I got the full-time role. Looking after bereaved parents and their families can be very difficult and very stressful, but so rewarding, and many years later I'm still fortunate to be doing a job that I still love. And not a lot of people can always say that, although the stress sometimes does get to you and you find the ways of coping and looking after yourself, and that's for everybody. As Jackie was saying, we need to look after ourselves to be able to look after the people we're caring for, and also, as Jackie said as well, is caring for each other. If you're working, you know somebody's struggling or needs help with something, even if it's only making a cup of tea or helping you do some memories for them, it really helps. The road sometimes is very long for the women, and it's been very long for me as well. Some women now that I'm still in contact with, it's been 9-10 years that I've looked after them, from when I was a seconded midwife doing this job to now, and some are still coming back to SANS or our reunions that we have. My job basically is advice and guidance to midwives and other staff, and to liaise with other professional groups and agencies in the hospital and the community, as well as provide appropriate training for all levels of staff. As some of you might know, Bradford also has a TLC clinic, which is support in subsequent pregnancies, which is quite unique to Bradford. There is more and more being set up, but we was one of the first in the country. And this is to help women in subsequent pregnancy have somewhere to go just to talk about the feelings. Our name for our group is also called the Paranoid Women's Group, and that's the name given to them by the women that attend, because the minute they get pregnant again, 1 minute you're up there, and then the next minute you think the same thing's going to happen, and that you will never have a live baby at the end of it. So Bradford is a multicultural city, as you all know, with many different religions and cultures which all impact on pregnancy, loss and grieving. We have approximately 5,800 to 6,000 births per year, and as we all know, Bradford has one of the highest mortality rates in the country. As a bereavement midwife for 10 years in Bradford, there's been many challenges. We haven't to make assumptions about people on the basis of their language. We must assume that all people within a particular religion practice the same ritual, have the same beliefs or the same language. As with many other things that makes us individual, there are many choices and many paths followed. One size does not fit all. And looking after the women in Bradford, it's the same. We can have a Muslim family that will do things one way, and then another family that will do it completely different. Some days it can be a steep learning curve for me, as well as the families that I look after. So this was last year's figures. I'm confused then, it's 2017, isn't it? So 2016, those we had 52 late miscarriages, in brackets is the year before. Termination of pregnancies we had 22, stillbirths we had 42, and the 2 TOPs that were done after 24 weeks. And the neonatal deaths was the same both years, and 3 of them were terminations of pregnancies that were gone alive. So as you can see, my workload, which comes to about 140 plus ladies that I've seen or had dealings with or met at the follow-up appointments. So it's quite a number in Bradford, and labour ward and the wards can be quite busy looking after these ladies, and it is time consuming, but it's all about supporting each other and doing all you can for these women that we look after. We do have more late miscarriages than we used to do, because our gynae ward in Bradford used to take ladies up to 20 weeks, but over the last couple of years that's been reduced to 16, so we take any lady from 16 weeks onwards, which has increased our workload. If I don't see some of the women when they're in the hospital, I can either see them when it's been diagnosed at scan, in clinic, on labour ward, or after delivery, or initially up on the wards. I will write to them and offer my condolences and give them my contact details, or I will see them at the follow-up clinic, which I attend most of the appointments with the follow-up clinic with a consultant. At that point we discuss what happened, have they got any questions, we make a plan of care for the future pregnancy, and I'll signpost them at that point if they need other help with counselling, etc. And a lot of them are referred to SANS at that point. For staff, we've got bereavement guidelines, which we have in a folder, but we also have on the intranet, and also over the years now I've started doing a booklet on how to take better photos, hand and footprints, how to fill in certificates correctly. That's a learning tool that we've done for the staff. So following delivery, for instance, if I come on a Tuesday morning and there's a lady on labour ward that's had a term stillbirth, these are some of the things that I will be discussing with them. We offer parents the opportunity to hold their baby, dress their baby in their own clothes. If it's a term stillbirth, most parents will have brought the clothes in, but again, if it's a smaller pregnancy loss, having the appropriate size clothes. And I have a real bug about finding things that fit babies, and if I go into a room and find a baby that's wrapped in a towel, a dirty towel, or not dressed, or don't look cared for, I get a bit upset about it. But fortunately we have volunteers who make packs up with little hats, little outfits that fit the babies, and it's just nice to see them looking like a baby. So with these packs that we get, a lot of them now, it gives the opportunity for parents to have a look at what they want for their baby. They have some choices because their baby's life has been taken from them, but getting them involved in what they want to do regarding mementos, etc. And we always have a choice of little blankets that were made by volunteers, which are called blankets of love. So it's giving them a choice and making some plans for what they want to do. So we weigh the baby, we do some hand and footprints, photographs, we get them dressed, a lock of hair, name tags, which we use the boxes in Bradford from Louis. Okay, and so Louis stand outside so you can have a look at what's in the boxes. But we go through the boxes with them, and we also add the name tags, And usually, as there's 2 teddies in the box, one stays with the baby and one stays with mum. If I'm looking after somebody, usually the one that's been with baby, before the mum goes home, I swap them over so that the mum's got the one that the baby's had. They may also want the clothes that baby's been wearing back. And once upon a time, I thought I was doing a good thing and took it home and washed all the clothes for them so they were nice and clean. Only to be told when I gave them to the parents they wanted them dirty. They wanted that blood, they wanted the meconium on the clothes. They didn't want them nice and clean. So I've never offered to wash anything again because it wasn't what they wanted. Parents can take their own photos. These are some of the photos that we've collected. Okay. It's very important that we take the photos ASAP after delivery. Okay. As we know, the baby's colour changes quite significantly over time. And just doing this, when I first started this job, the standard shot was just sort of head, arms, top bit of baby. And I used to find photographs with the sharps box in the background, dirty towel, the socket on the wall, and it's just about taking that extra care, removing things from around that aren't necessary, doing the different shots. So the ones with just the feet, if the baby's got abnormalities or facial disfigurements, the feet are always beautiful. The one with the twins, it's a matter of doing photos with both the babies together, using photographs with their other children, with teddies, and like I said, the teddy that we go home with. It's very nice to have a photo with the baby, with the teddy, and then, because after a while you forget how big your baby was. Exactly. But if you've got the photo with the teddy that you've taken home, it sort of brings it back how small or large your baby was. Sometimes families are not sure about seeing the babies. And at that point, we can say to them, that's not a problem, we will take baby. In our Stone Suite, which is our bereavement room on labour ward, we have a room next door which babies can be left in. We've got a cold cot in there, and when the parents are ready, we will encourage them to see the baby. For some it's very scary, and it's very difficult for them to know what to do. But research shows that spending time with your baby and making mementos does help the grieving process, which affects the long-term support of the parents. It's important we ask the parents if they don't want photos, whether they would like us to do some photos and hand and footprints. And that is very special because we put them in the notes. Because women come back to us 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, or even 20 years later. I had one lady that came back 20 years. She hit her 40th birthday and suddenly she wanted to know what her daughter had looked like. Her mum had seen her daughter but she hadn't. And she came back, I've retrieved the notes, and in the folder was a sealed envelope with a picture of her daughter in. So she came up for that. Over a cup of coffee, she eventually had a look at the baby, and she was really, really pleased that we had taken that photo and stored it for her, and she said that was the best thing she'd ever done. So it's important to just double check, even though they say they don't want anything at the time, that we have kept something, but we do need the permission to do that. Doing all these things with the parents, all these, the worst thing is, as a midwife or student midwife or a healthcare, you get told on a particular morning you come on duty or evening that you've got the snowdrop suite, and then most midwives will say to me, the panic sets in. You start having palpitations and think, what do I do next? All you need to do is go, knock on the door, go in, introduce yourself, say who you are and what time you're working till, and that you will be looking after them that day. And treat them as you would any other mum who'd had a baby. Okay? Ask them what they've named the baby, what the weight is, and just treat them as anybody else. Okay, yes, their baby has died, but they're still a mum, dad and grandparents. And that's the thing that parents feedback, is that their baby was treated with dignity. So it's just like, take a deep breath, walk in, and once you get chatting to them, that's fine. They're happy to talk about baby, most women. If they've already got the memory box, you can go in there and say, do you mind showing me, or can I have a look? Okay, so over time it does get easier, and it's usually the paperwork that is the most difficult for most people. But the main thing is showing that you care and that their baby counts. Oops, it's falling off. And that is the main thing. Paperwork, yes, we have to get it right, but that's why there's guidelines and help with doing that. And there's plenty of people around in the multidisciplinary team that will help you with the paperwork. As in Bradford, there is a lot of multicultural families around, and some of the problems we get, and over the years I've learnt so much about, especially the Muslim religion. Even families don't know what they should be doing. When you get pregnant, arranging a funeral is not on the top of your list. You don't even think about it. So when suddenly the midwives or I turn up and we're talking about registering a stillbirth or arranging a funeral, they haven't got a clue. And most of us who are young enough have never dealt with organising a funeral themselves. So they need all the help and guidance, but being told there's no rush. Okay? They can take the time. I advise parents to go and have a look at the graves that the hospital offer, or to go away and think about, ring a funeral director and see what their options are. Because once they've made that choice, that is it. So it's important that they get it right at the right time. Just flip back. So this is some of the other things that we do. Chaplaincy, the prayers, the hands, that's the main thing I could get, sorry, for religion. Our chaplaincy department is brilliant. We've got 3 Muslim chaplains. We've got the Roman Catholic, the Sikh, Christian, and they're all available to come and help. We can do the blessings and naming. They will help with the funeral. The Muslim chaplains will also help arrange funerals for the Muslim parents if they wanted to do it as soon as possible. And it's important that we know the chaplaincy department is available and can help. And especially when we're busy, they can be doing some of the jobs like bathing the baby, etc., the Muslim ones, and giving us some space to be doing some other things. Bathing a baby, parents may wish to do that, or grandparents often do the bathing. And that's another time to get a lovely photo, is when the baby's being washed. And some people tend to forget to do that one. Hand and footprints are important. And when I was a midwife on labour ward, I once did some hand and footprints, went off to go home and then realised they weren't very good. The standard wasn't good, so I had to go back and redo them, because this is the only thing that they've got in their box to take home with them. And often, as you've seen, they get their hand and footprints in tattoos or onto silver chains, so they take copies of that. So it's nice that we get it right. If the baby's got all its toes there, then try get all the toes on the ink. The bottom one there is the clay ones that we do, and that's also another nice thing for them to do. Some of the parents don't like that one doing, and some of the staff don't like doing it because it's not that easy. There's an knack to it. But that's also in my guideline, how to do it correctly and how to warm it up and how to get the best. The cuddle cot, as I said, we've got a cold cot which can be wheeled into the rooms, which will keep the baby at an ideal temperature to preserve the baby that bit longer, so parents can spend longer with their baby. Also, we've got the cuddle cot, which can be used upon the wards, or we can even take those home. So if we had a parent who wanted to take their baby home, there was no coroner involvement, and they were arranging their own funeral, they could take their baby home and borrow one of our cuddle cots to use at home and keep the baby cool. We've got three of those, and we've got the cold cot. There's plenty of opportunity for us to be using them. And as people who work in Bradford often know, we have more than one woman most of the time, either on labour ward or up in the ward, so we could use that upstairs or in the other rooms. One of the difficulties that I've come across recently with the chaplaincy department is that previously the Roman Catholic priest that we had wasn't happy to come and see women who'd had the termination of pregnancy, even though it was for medical reasons. He also wouldn't do the funerals. But fortunately at the moment we've got a lovely chaplain. It doesn't matter to him how the baby has died. He's just there for the parents, and he's really, really good, and he will support them. But that was one thing I learnt about 6 months ago, that the one we had previously wouldn't have anything to do with a lady who had terminated for medical reasons, which was very difficult. The other things that we organise at the time, if it's a stillbirth, we need to do stillbirth certificates, make sure they're filled in correctly, because the form that we give them to take down to the registry office, then if we don't get it right, the parents get sent away and we get a telephone call to say we've done it incorrectly, and they need to come back and collect another copy. So it's important that paperwork is done correctly, and it's a learning curve for everybody. I try to make it as easy as possible in our what we call our Tiggers room, which is where all the paperwork and the stores are. But even though bullet point everything, when you're dealing with that and you're busy, you've probably got another woman or two women, it is difficult. So we have to just try get it right if we can. So the multidisciplinary team,
study press up on that. 1 minute. Press now.
So multidisciplinary team, it's not just me. I coordinate the bereavement team. So myself, the chaplaincy, the bereavement office is over in the main BRI, who arrange the hospital baby funerals. So we have the hospital arrange funerals from 20 weeks and above in the bereavement office, and every baby gets offered an individual funeral in the communal baby grave, the Muslim section, or a cremation. The mortuary is also involved at looking after our babies. We've got Martin and Wendy down there who look after the babies really, really well, and they're the ones that inform me when babies have gone for post-mortem and have come back from Sheffield. Post-mortem, at one point when I first started, we hardly had any. I could probably count on one hand. But over the past 6 months, we've increased our post-mortem rate, and that is basically by explaining to parents more what happens to the baby. All our babies go to Sheffield, so we need to explain that their baby will be transported from labour ward to the mortuary and then to Sheffield via a funeral director. If their baby was alive, you wouldn't let anybody take your baby and not know where they were. So we explain that the baby is transferred to Sheffield and then baby is brought back by a funeral director to the mortuary. And I often ring them when baby's returned, so they know exactly where their baby is, that the baby's gone and then it's returned, and then the funeral arrangements can be arranged either by themselves or by us. Recently, I have been inviting parents to come back if they wish to look at and view their babies. Okay? And on labour wards, if I do this, which makes work for me and labour ward staff, but the parents really appreciate it, that I show staff the babies that have had a post-mortem, And usually I wear glasses and I have to put my glasses on to be able to see the sutures. You cannot tell these babies have had a PM. They come back looking as good as when they went. And parents are so happy to come back and see that their baby still looks like a baby, that they've not been treated by a specimen in a lab, and it reassures them. And last week, I think, not last week, the week before, I did 3 in a week, all that had had PMs, and I learnt so much from them seeing the babies afterwards. So that is the improvement, and letting the other midwives, students on the labour ward, see a baby come back. It helps them to express what happens when a baby goes for PM, and gives the parents some knowledge of what happens and that it's okay for PMs. And obviously part of the team is the midwives, the health cares, the doctors. Outside support groups, we use SANS, we use all the fluid products, and we signpost parents to those groups as well. And SANS has helped redo our bereavement room recently, and City Hall is where the parents register and the funeral directors that we have a close communications with. Then for the funeral options, then it's important with the multicultural. Recently we found out that Eastern Europeans, a lot of the Slovakian ladies expect at a funeral that the coffin is open, and when they've gone to the funeral, there's been a few incidents recently where they wanted the coffin opening. We don't do that. That's not the policy with the hospital, so we've had to rechange how we explain funerals to families. The other thing is chaplaincy department. We have a lot of couples, maybe one's Muslim, one's Catholic, and the chaplaincy department work really well together now to give a funeral that works for both religions, and that has been a great thing recently. They work so well. We'll do a service for the Catholic, and then we'll do a service for the Muslim, and have as much as we can from both cultures of what they want, and that does help. And there's nothing we can't really do. If a parent asks to do things, then usually we can do it. We might have to bend the rules now and again to get what they want, but it's their baby, it's their one chance, and it's one chance for us to get it right for them. And that's it. Basically just take care and show that they matter. And I think most midwives and students realise that. And parents don't mind if you cry, because if you cry, that shows you care as well about them and their baby. But don't be afraid of looking after bereaved parents, because job satisfaction is what I get from doing this job. And if people can gain more knowledge in looking after these women and making it a better experience, which is horrendous for any person to go through, but for them to go home and come back to follow-up appointment and have some positive memories, that means we're doing our job right in Bradford.